Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bryan from Keeping Up with the Nerds, and with me today we have an exclusive interview here only at Whittier ComicFest with penciler, inker, and now publisher, Ray Anthony Height.
Hey,
I got that right.
Brian?
There we go. How's it going, man?
Good.
Nice to meet
Very
you.
good.
We've never met before, right? So
No.
formalities. Just let's get them out of the way.
Exactly.
How's it going?
No, this is good. This is good.
How have you been?
You know what? I had shoulder surgery on my left shoulder,
Okay.
not my drawing arm, thankfully. Yeah.
Okay, so it's this one. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to be like, hang on, did I shake the wrong one?
Yeah, I'm a righty. I'm not a lefty, thankfully. But no, I'm good. No sling and everything. It's
Good.
weak, but that's fine.
But you're managing, which is good.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
that's good. That's good to
Yeah.
hear. That's good to hear.
It's not the moneymaker.
That's the right hand, right? That's going to be
Yeah.
the one that you're going to be drawing on everything and stuff like that.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good to hear that you're in good health and everything's going well. But for the people that might not know you, I did mention earlier that you were an inker, a penciler, and now a publisher. Is there any pieces of notable work that people might recognize you for that they might have seen out there in the comic book world?
I've done a lot of my career at Marvel, so I've done Dr. Aphra, a Star Wars book. I was penciling on that. I did a few covers on that. And then Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, I was the alternate penciler and inker. I inked that too, so they would just call that the artists on that. So pencils and inks on that, several issues. X-Men Blue, I did a few issues on that.
X-Men Blue had a sister comic series, right?
I think so.
It was like X-Men, I don't know why I want to say yellow.
Well, no. So remember they did X-Men Blue, X-Men Red.
X-Men Red, there you go.
X-Men Red,
Yes.
yeah. So
I remember.
So yeah, I've been around for a while.
You've touched multiple pieces of the comic book world.
I have.
Yes.
Only recently did I do work at DC on their tie-in for Aquaman. So
Okay.
I did Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom.
Okay.
And it's a big, thick anthology.
Yeah.
So I did the Black Manta story in that. I did Truth and Justice
Okay.
with Papa Midnight and Constantine. Yeah. So I've done some work.
Cool. Now, I do have to ask this question because, I'll be honest with you. So,
Okay.
we're the nerds. We know comic books. We know how much work it goes behind it, the amount of people that, do have to put tremendous amount of work to get things just published out. Just a single issue takes a long time to do, right?
Absolutely.
But most people won't know what a inker is or what a penciler is, right? So unlike a novel or anything like that, it's, a novel, you're typing everything and there's just mainly a writer, right? So can you explain to me what a penciler is?
So, it's almost exactly as it sounds. Usually a penciler actually draws everything out in pencil. They do the layouts. They visually tell the story. They interpret the script that the writer's given them, and they turn that into pictures.
Okay.
Sequential art. And essentially, it's at the end of that, you will have, depending on the size of the book, 20 to 24 pages that are penciled, that are ready to be received by the inker, who will embellish and clean up the artwork for reprinting, or in this case, for coloring. And then that moves to the colorist, who goes over and does that.
Got it.
Colors that work, and then the letterer, who obviously does the lettering.
Yeah.
They interpret the script, put the words down on page with the balloons and everything else. So.
Okay. So the penciler is kind of like, because you said that the penciler interprets what the writer wrote,
Yes.
right? In a way, they're like the director who's looking at a screenplay and then imagining what is going to be shown to the audiences, right?
I would say the director, the actor, the cinematographer.
So they're multiple jobs
Yes,
all in one.
there's multiple jobs.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So a penciler is the one that does would you say a rough draft of what the comic book is supposed to be?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the inker is the one that finalizes everything afterwards, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. But you've done both.
Oh, yeah.
You've done both. If you don't mind me asking, I know that, both jobs could be extremely difficult, but which one would you say you enjoyed the most? Let's do a positive spin on that one.
Penciling, really the layout stage of the penciling. Actually interpreting the story. So I'll get a script, I'll print it out, I'll actually draw panels on the actual script as I'm interpreting it.
Okay.
And then by the time it gets to the actual page, I'm tightening that up, I'm adding different elements, really pushing the story even more. So let's take a scene where there's a car chase. and the writer says, okay, there's a car chase through the city. It is a busy street, and there's cars all around. And the main car is kind of weaving in and out, doing some reckless things. I would take that, depend on what the shot is, what it entailed. Do we need to see the driver? Do we not need to see the driver? Let's add some more story to it. Maybe they're avoiding someone that's in the street. They have to go on the sidewalk, right? That's not in the script, but I add that to really kind of bring that scene home. And maybe there's a dog in a way and somebody's pulling somebody out of the way of this crazy car.
Yeah.
That's what the penciler does. That's my favorite part, like really making it flourish.
Now, I know that usually, because I studied film, so I know that there's different methods of approaching a certain scene, right? So let's take your car chase, for example, right? And you don't mind if we go into penciling a little bit, right? And
we can go as deep as you like.
Hey, I just wanted, that's great. It's to me, it's interesting. It's an interesting topic.
Yeah,
the creative mind is an interesting thing to study, So when you're filming a car chase, right, you can do a bunch of different panels, right? You can say okay, this is where I want the camera angle to be at, and so on and so forth. Sometimes they do the same scene multiple times because they want the camera to be in a different angle. Yes. Do you do that as a penciler as well, where you interpret a scene?
It depends on what the mood is. So each shot means something different. An overhead shot kind of gives you the entire scene. Usually it's great for an establishing shot, right? So you know where everything else, and you tell the reader, this is where we are. These are the people or the things that are involved. And then the next scene could be a shot of, let's say, the driver themselves. And they're frantic or whatever. You haven't seen the car yet, but you get a sense of who's behind the wheel before you see the car. Then let's say the next shot, since we know where we are, we know the mood of the driver. He's frantic, he's sweating bullets, maybe there's blood on his collar. You don't know, but that's the thing. And then the next shot is a shot that's a little bit more panoramic or letterbox. And it is a scene of the car weaving through traffic, coming at you with some forced perspective. And you really get to see the manifestation of that frantic energy that we saw in the driver's face from the previous panel. So, you kind of guide it. You figure out what shot it is. Different angles mean different things. We could have even done a silhouette to have some mystery behind it, right? Or shots of the environment where you see the people, the bystanders, and the cars in the distance, and you isolate it. Like, here's some looming thing that's coming. It's not here yet, but it doesn't look like it's going to be good news. So,
as you were describing the panels, right, I got it in my head. I don't know. It's interesting because I do think that when you are creating the shots, right, that a writer does give you, you do have to have that imagery in your head before you're able to translate it. And it does take a lot of skill. I'll put it that way. It does take a lot of skill, because in order for you to translate it well enough that you're supposed to put it on paper, that is a skill in itself.
Yeah.
And
sure.
You did a great job explaining. I was picturing that whole sequence in my head. I kind of want to make a movie out of it at this point.
Well, I studied film too. So,
okay.
And especially animation. I'm a huge anime fan. So I usually see how scenes play out, because honestly, we're doing the same thing. I'm one of those people who believe that storyboard artists are some of the best visual storytellers.
Yes.
I did storyboards on Guardians of the Galaxy, the animated series also.
Okay.
But I've been studying animation forever, film.
Yeah.
I love film. So I try to take that and put that into panels.
That is an interesting point that you bring up, right? Because you don't think that comic books can translate to like a film aesthetic, but you do kind of need to bring that into the reader's perspective in a way, right?
Well, for sure. I mean, with film, the first thing that gets done are the storyboards, which essentially is a cousin to comics.
Yeah.
So even though you see it on screen, some storyboard artists drew The Matrix, right? Tim Burton actually did a lot of the artwork for the Batman series and all of his movies.
Yeah.
He's a great artist. So it's part of their job, but when the viewer sees it, it's a team effort in film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Completely understand. So the penciler creates the first parts of it.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a penciler and an inker in more detail?
So when the inker gets the pencils, they add texture, they add line weights, they are kind of like creating the lighting effects and really pushing the focus even more. So that really the role of an inker is to embellish what's already there. So let's take the inside of our environment right now. As a penciler, I could draw the room, but an inker would come and draw the texture on the wall. They would take what I did and then add more life to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Next level.
Yeah. Okay. Now, see that. Okay. So you are basically finalizing the details.
Yes.
Of what the penciler does.
You're bringing it in. You're like making it real.
Yeah. The penciler is the skeleton. The inker is adding the muscle structure to the skeleton.
Exactly.
To the human body.
That's it.
Gotcha. Okay. That is interesting to see. Okay. All right. Well, we can talk about penciling and inkling for the next half hour to an hour, right?
Easily,
And it's great because I feel like people that do want to get into this sort of field, like, yes, this is the first thing that needs to be understood, that comic books it is a team effort.
It is.
You did say, right? I mean, you can do independent comic books and have a writer and a colorist, an artist who does everything, right?
I write, I ink,
yeah.
I pencil, for my own book.
Yeah.
I do all that stuff. But it's nice to have mastered, well, I'm not a master of anything, but to know enough about each discipline so that you can do it yourself. I think some of the best inkers are pencilers.
Yeah.
Because they understand form. They understand what something's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Right? You can tell the difference between somebody who's tracing versus somebody who's embellishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, I want to bring it back to something you just said. You said you're working on your own book.
Yes.
What is this book?
My book is called Midnight Tiger. It came out in 2012.
Okay.
And then it was picked up by a publisher. It was kind of tangled up in that for a little while, but with my rights back and at a new publisher, which is fantastic, CEX Publishing, the book is out. Well, it will be out, I want to say September, maybe earlier than September. But essentially, my pitch is this. What if Peter Parker was in Gotham?
Was in Gotham. So a noir, darker Spider-Man.
Yeah, with a bit of, you take Peter's attitude that, he's a young guy, and he doesn't have the same mentality as, let's say, a Bruce Wayne, where it's grim and gritty. But the city itself
is grim and gritty. Okay.
And so you take the attitude of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and not essentially this vengeance god, and you put it in a place where it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Would the people of Gotham take somebody like Spider-Man seriously? And how far could they push Peter? Maybe he'll end up turning, you know what I mean? So that's what Midnight Tiger is kind of like. It's a 17-year-old kid who gets these abilities. No hero is in his city, although heroes exist for whatever reason, which is the big mystery, why heroes do not come to his city. But something happens where someone does come to his city and he ends up saving their life on his own. Kind of like a Deku thing. I don't know if you know about My Hero Academia. Oh, yeah. Where his body moves on its own, which is funny because the first chapter of My Hero Academia came out at the same time as Midnight Tiger. So a friend of mine told me about it, and both the heroes have similar motivations.
Okay.
It was kind of crazy.
So then my question to you is this, because so if this is a Peter Parker Spider-Man-esque character in a Gotham environment, does this hero, is the hero's name Midnight Tiger?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gavin Shaw is his...
Kevin Shaw?
Gavin. Yeah.
Gavin Shaw. Does Gavin Shaw hold his punches?
All the time.
All the time.
And the reason why he pulls his punches is because he's seen enough death.
Yeah.
In his life because of the place he lives.
Yeah.
And his goal is to minimize, if not eradicate, as much pain that the people of his city has had to suffer.
You sold me on this book immediately. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I love the morals that he has and everything.
Yes.
So I have thought about having him be in a darker, grittier environment, and it's very interesting for you to say that this is the character that you're putting in that kind of aesthetic, right?
Yeah, because New York, it's funny, and he's funny, and all these different things, so they kind of balance. New York can be gritty, and Pete has gone through a lot of dark things, but that's not his day-to-day. His day-to-day is, hey, I'm going to swing and save somebody from a mugger who's inept or something, right? It's not the Joker. It's not, the Penguin or whoever. Mr. Zaz, or, you know what I mean? It's not these crazy, like, murderous people all the time. So what happens when you have that?
I see what you mean. He gets pushed to his limits constantly,
all the time. And will he break? Will he kill?
Yeah.
You know?
And this is a question that is yet to be answered, right?
No.
No?
No. Well, yeah, it hasn't been answered.
Okay, I was gonna say,
No. But yeah, in the new, so the hardcover is going to come out, which is a great introduction, and that's a book that's coming out. But then there's the new series called Midnight Tiger Evo.
Midnight Tiger Evo.
So as an evolution.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because something happens at the end of the first hardcover that leads to Gavin getting pushed.
He becomes, okay, I see what you mean. I don't want to do any comparisons because this is a great story that you're proposing right now that I definitely do want to read at this point. I didn't even know, but you said that this was 2020 when it first came out, right?
2014, but it's been on hiatus for years.
Got it. So does anyone who wants to read Midnight Tiger, do they have to go back and look for those issues, or can they jump in?
They can jump in.
Okay.
The book is completed. There was a Kickstarter that finished last year. Those books are coming out, but it will be back on the shelves and a new Kickstarter. Like I said, probably as early as August. So a couple months.
Oh, a couple months from now. So that people don't have to wait that long to get it.
Not at all.
That's good. That's good to hear.
Because we're trying to go right into the next series.
Yeah. You are the writer?
I'm the writer.
The inker?
I'm the inker.
The penciler?
I'm the penciler.
Not the colors?
Not the colors.
Gotcha. But
much more talented people than me are coloring. And the first series actually had a writer, Dwayne Feenstra. So I created the character and I hired Dwayne to help me write. So he scripted.
Yeah.
And that's another section, right? You can write all the plots. And if you're not trying to do all the scripting, you can actually hire someone who will script based on your plots. So that's another facet of the job.
It's a little tidbit for people that maybe want to know a little bit more about it. That's interesting.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So as far as the content for this series is gone, you said that there's one book that will be releasing out, and it's still continuing.
It's about 100 pages. So because it was like 4 issues when it came out.
Okay.
And the completion of the series, issue 3, is a 30-pager. So all total, it's a little over 100 pages.
Gotcha. Okay. That way people can know exactly what components of it you worked on. You worked on a lot of it, which is great. Yeah. And people will know and get to know your work through this, if anything, which I'm already sold. I definitely want to read. I definitely want to read it at this point.
It's fun. I mean, quite honestly, it's pulling from my own life. I grew up in Compton at the darkest times where there was a lot of gang violence, a lot of drugs and stuff like that. But my attitude, I wanted to make people, have more joy, because we lived in such a dark place, I think we have more than enough negativity. And I think positivity motivates people to do the right thing.
And you know what? Before we wrap up the interview, you did that. That's a great point. That is a great point. I feel like when it comes to creative works, sometimes great pieces of work come from the creators when they pull out something personal.
Definitely.
Because it's experiences that they get to share out to the audiences, right?
Yeah.
And I completely understand that. Again, you don't need to sell this to me anymore. I'm already sold, but here you are telling me more stuff.
I have fun talking about it.
As you should. It's a very interesting story. Do you mind teasing the costume and kind of explaining it, seeing how, if people haven't seen this yet?
So...
or does he not have a costume?
He does have a costume.
Okay.
And it has been, I'll tell you, are you familiar with the comic news site Newsarama? I don't know if it's still around, but...
The name sounds familiar.
So when it came out, Newsarama, and I will forever repeat this, said that it is what Steve Ditko and Stan Lee would have done if Spider-Man came out today. That's what Midnight Tiger is.
Got it.
I thought that was fantastic. It kind of said it all. The costume itself is a combination. So you know the character Wildcat?
Yes.
It's a little bit of Wildcat. It's a little bit of a character named Puma.
Okay.
From the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
And with the ears, a little Black Panther. But when you see it, you're like, yes and no, right?
I gotcha.
Yeah. So when you see it, it's pretty cool. And he has a symbol. I should have worn the shirt, but But yeah, just look it up. Like, you type it in, it's right there. Ray Anthony Height, you find it that way too.
Perfect. Okay. Now, where can people go find you? Do you have any social medias to plug in? Any websites?
For sure.
Okay.
I'm on Instagram at RA Height Comics. I am on my own studio, the publishing part. Studio Sky Tiger. Sky is spelled SKYE. You gotta remember the E to get there. So it's studioskytiger.com. I'm also on X, aka Twitter. RA Height.
Okay.
And Kara, which is a new non-AI thing for artists to go to.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I'm on there as RA Height as well.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it.
Definitely. Guys, if you guys are interested in learning more about Midnight Tiger, Ray in general, please go follow his social media platforms. Please go check out. Is the Kickstarter up, by the way, for the new one that you're going to be doing, or no?
No, it's on the way.
It's on the way.
It's on the way. The old one finished a while ago, but if you go and look it up on Kickstarter, you can, I don't know, I think CEX has something where you can probably jump on that ahead of time.
Okay.
So,
but when the new one does come up, you'll announce it on your social media.
Absolutely.
Perfect. That's the most important thing. Please follow him. Are you more active on Insta or Twitter? Insta. So
for sure,
follow everything, but keep an eye out on his Instagram so that way he can post the Kickstarter and go support if you guys are interested in that. Ray, thank you so much for joining us, and it was a pleasure learning about this.
You said fun.
I'm glad. That is the whole point of us nerds here. We're trying to make sure that our guests feel comfortable, and it's not just like hey, man, all right, tell me about your work. That's cool.
It's like we're sitting on the couch.
Yeah, it's like no, you're a guest. You're a friend of the show now, so thank you so much.
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you. And guys, please check out the rest of the interviews here at Whittier ComicFest. There'll be everything at our website at keepingupwiththenerds.com. And please, once again, I do have to say this. I cannot stress it enough. Follow, and everything will be in the description down below for Ray's Insta, social medias, and places where you can find Midnight Tiger. And with that said, let's wrap up this interview. This was Ray. My name is Bryan, and we'll see you all in the next one.